Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
We are here today with Ann, Louise, and friends. We're talking about radical health. We're changing things up a bit. And Teresa and I will be talking about paleo hacks for lifestyle and fun. Lifestyle fun and lifestyle hacks and fun in the kitchen, because that's your expertise. And to be honest with you, look, there we are on the big screen. And what I want to tell you today is that Teresa is head of Fat Flush Central. She is our head cook and bottle washer. She's a wonderful cook. She also is my private chef. And so she'll be sharing with you some of her tips for Fat Flush and Paleo Plus and beyond. So I think what we'd like to do is to start this show and tell by sharing maybe one or two lifestyle gadgets that makes life easier, happier, and healthier in the kitchen. So Teresa, would you show us what you brought today?
Sure. Well, one of my favorite things is a simple vegetable peeler like this. I know a lot of us have those long, slender vegetable peelers. I hate them. So these are wonderful. They're ergonomically correct. You can just hold it in your hand like this, and they're so much faster for peeling vegetables. So check out these if you haven't tried one before. You can just really quick for peeling.
Cool.
This we talked about one time before, but this is a spiralizer. This is one of our favorite tools. We use it to make zucchini noodles or carrot noodles. You don't even miss pasta when you have one of these around. Then I wanted to tell you about this apple corer peeler. This time of year around here is apple season, and my kids and grandkids and I go and pick apples by the bushels full every year. And this makes life so much easier. So simple. Just press it down onto your apple and cut it in pieces, and it's already cored. But my last thing about apples is this nifty looking tool. This gadget will save you loads of time. One of the things we like to do at Ann Louise's house, especially in the fall, is to make baked apples with walnuts. And this saves so much time. And you just stick this down through the center of the apple and pull it back out, and this lifts up to release the core of the apple.
It's very cool. Can I go?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that you had all this in our kitchen. Is this in my kitchen too?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Very impressed. Well, I have a slew of things here which are really lifestyle hacks for the Fat Flush lifestyle. And they're things that I've told you about online. You've asked me questions about them, and this was one of them very specifically for a healthy and happy life, which are the floater drops. Now, these are truly wonderful, almost miraculous. I mean, if there's such a thing as snake oil, you should excuse the expression, this might well be the snake oil. It's Dexterity Health Liquid MSM with vitamin C. It's liquid MSM drops with vitamin C. And it's really very soothing for the eye. So it's a source of natural sulfur, and you just stick it in your eye. You go back, stick it in your eye, do it like 3 or 4 times a day. And quite honestly, it mitigates floaters. And as you get to be older and wiser, as we all do, as we get into our saging age of life, floaters really come to plague you. And this little remedy here, which you can get online, this Dexterity Health Liquid MSM, is one of the best things I've ever found for floaters.
I think that's wonderful.
It is, and it really works.
Great.
All right, so that's number one. Now, another lovely Paleo Plus hack that many of you have seen me talk about is cream of tartar. Cream of tartar, you can get it at any store. This one happens to be the Spice Hunter brand, which I think is non-irrigated, non-GMO, one of the best brands out there. And I love this because, as I think I shared with Teresa once, my teacher, Dr. Parcells, used to use this with salt and soda to get rid of radiation. So if there's a day like it is today where it's very overcast, and you see a lot of rain and snow, and people are getting respiratory ills, a lot of times that isn't the flu, but it's respiratory illness coming from radiation. So you put about a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar, which is known as a blood cleanser, in water. Drink it down with another 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt and baking soda, and voila, you're feeling better already. Now, this is a very high source of potassium. So I put it in my smoothies every single morning, about a 1/4 teaspoon. So there you go with an old-fashioned blood cleanser, which is known as cream of tartar, one of the highest potassium sources on the planet, and it zaps radiation, which is a part of life in this wonderful day and age that we are now living in. So last but not least, for my show and tell, at least in this portion, I wanted to also show you one of my favorite essential oils. Now this one specifically is eucalyptus. I like eucalyptus because for adults particularly, not for children, specifically for children under 2, this is not healthy. You can use this for respiratory issues. When it comes to the fall, people get fluish, they get respiratory problems, more radiation comes down as we just discussed,
Yes.
and people get coughs and congestion. You know, it's just icky stuff this time of the year. Well, you can put this on your chest at night, you can gargle with it. Sometimes people put it on their gums or they put it on a little Kleenex and they just breathe it in. So this is one of them I wanted to show you. This is the Shirley Price Professional brand. It's one of the cheapest on the markets and very fine. There are terrific brands that are out there. I mean, people talk about doTERRA. Young Living is another one that I know of. There's some really terrific ones. Wisdom of the Ancients. This is the one that I have in my home. But second to this is something that you taught me, and it was tea tree oil.
Yes.
Tea tree oil.
Favorite.
This is a wonderful hack because tea tree oil is a multifaceted essential oil.
Yes.
You use it to get out spots
I do in the laundry, especially oily spots on clothing.
that I get, right?
Yes, and cooking and everything. Just a little drop of tea tree oil, and then with your regular stain remover on top of that, and then just to launder like normal. It works wonders.
It does. You know what I use this for, though, Teresa?
No.
I put this on my gums because I find that if there are any little canker sores or little ulcers, and sometimes it's very hard on my gums. I mean, I have a toothbrush, and if I'm under stress, that toothbrush gets a lot of activity.
Yes.
So I will irritate my gums, and I do that with a water pick too lately. I don't know what it is. I mean, I go to war with the water pick. So this really irritates the gums, and what you do is you can put it on any kind of little injury, and it makes it go away almost overnight.
Yes.
So I'm loving the tea tree oil.
Me
So
too.
there you have, you've got your floater drops, you've got your cream of tartar, you've got your essential oil, and now it's your turn. What else do you want to share?
May I say a little something also about the tea tree oil?
Sure.
Another thing that we've used it for often in our family is this time of year, cold and flu season. Kids will come down with a sore throat, even at strep throat. We have actually had wonderful results just putting a few drops of tea tree oil on a cotton swab and swabbing their little throats with it. And we didn't have to use antibiotics. We saw marked improvement the very next day.
Oh, that's totally cool. So would you use that in conjunction with eucalyptus, do you think?
I think you sure could.
Wow, that's a good
I
combination.
haven't ever tried eucalyptus on a cotton swab internally.
You have to be careful with kids, and that's just
Yes,
the caveat
exactly.
for kids
Exactly.
under 2.
Mm,
Wow, very interesting. We love essential oils.
We do.
We really do in our
Mhm,
house. And
we
we
do.
have the other thing which we didn't bring to you, which we kind of take out of the closet every winter, is this little unit that has essential oils in it. It's called, what is it called?
Yes.
A Sensi something?
Something.
It's a
I'm
Sensi
sorry, I
thing.
can't remember.
We've got to tell you the name of it because
It's really pretty.
it eludes, it's got a lovely little light, but then there's a wonderful fragrance that it kind of permeates in the air. A
Yes.
Sensi pot, maybe.
Maybe. It's electric. It plugs in. We'll find out more about that, and
It
we'll
makes-
let you guys know.
It's a really cool gift, too.
It's a wonderful gift, and it makes the whole kitchen smell just wonderful.
Now, I think there are questions, which of course I can't see.
Oh,
But
let's
Teresa,
see.
can you read any of the questions? Maybe we should stop and just...
Does radiation cause the headaches people get when it rains?
Yeah, well, it can. Okay, that is such a good question, so let me just answer. You know, years ago I studied about radiation with Dr. Hazel Parcells, my mentor that died at 106. So when you're in a room with a woman that's in her, and in those years was the early 100s, I mean, you listen. She believed that because of what happened with all the nuclear plants that started up in this country in the 50s and thereafter, and the nuclear explosions above the land and underneath, that a lot of us were suffering from subtle radiation poisoning that nobody was recognizing. So the symptoms are flu-like symptoms, being totally overly acidic, tiredness that no sleep can really satisfy, and aches and pains. Oh wow, there you have it. That's kind of modern day us.
Yes.
So that's where it comes in handy. Remember I said it's a 1/4 teaspoon in a glass of water, but you can also do a salt and soda bath. So she also recommended, besides taking this in water, that you go into a bath at night with 2 cups of baking soda and 2 cups of sea salt. Not Epsom salt for the radiation. Epsom salt's good for other things. but 2 cups of sea salt. You stay in the water for 20 minutes until it cools, and then you get out and you do not shower for the next 4 hours. And that will break a fever, it will bring down your acidity and get rid of that radiation.
Well, and Louise,
totally
you
cool.
taught me that too, and it has saved me more than one time. And your skin feels wonderful afterwards too, by the way.
Very cool.
But you kind of get out of the bath with a renewed sense of well-being.
And calmness. And
Yes.
calmness. Any other questions?
Let's see. Just some comments. Diffusers are an amazing way to use your
Oils. Yes.
your essential oils.
Yes,
yes,
we agree.
absolutely. We do agree. How do you lower inflammation in the body, ladies, please?
How do you lower inflammation? You take a salt and soda bath, number
Yes.
1. There you go, salt and soda bath, because so much of what we suffer from is not what you think you're really experiencing.
Mhm.
So that's number 1. Number 2, you have to, I think, on a daily basis, use a very strong antioxidant. Now that could be in the form of a teaspoon of turmeric, maybe in your daily smoothie.
Yes.
That's really outstanding. That will work for a lot of people. There are products on the market that are antioxidant based, whether it's glutathione, liposomal glutathione, ASEA is another wonderful product that can tamp down inflammation. And I'm also feeling that when it comes to inflammation, more vitamin C. I don't think enough people take vitamin C. It's the premier antioxidant, and it's been known to really tamp down and tamp out certain risk factors for cancer.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so
amazing.
you know how amazing it is. Other questions, and then we'll continue to share.
Barbara is just saying thank you very much. She never knew about the cream of tartar and loves that information.
It's so easy because this is medicine from your kitchen cabinet.
Exactly. It's also
That's a
great
good name
in-
for a new book.
Oh, that
That's
is
a good
name.
medicine for your kitchen
That is a
cabinet.
really good name. Cream of
think
tartar is also wonderful when you're trying to make egg whites, stiff egg whites for your meringues.
Oh, and
by the way,
yes, that's what we used to use it for.
Yes,
I know, that's very
exactly.
good. Well, I'm going to go on with some of these other things that I forgot.
we did have one quick question too, Anne Louise. How often can you take this bath?
So, doctor would say it depends upon where you're living. If you're living 100 miles from a nuclear plant, and you can look it up online, just plug in where you are and say what's the nearest nuclear plant. If it's 100 miles, it's 2 to 3 times a week.
Ah.
We live in northern Idaho, so we are not far from Hanford.
Right.
And they have accidents there every now and again. I mean, you read about it in the
true.
papers. They don't let you know too much in advance when something is happening. And I find that it's very important here, if the wind is blowing from a certain direction, to take a salt and soda bath every other day. So
Excellent.
that's okay. So you can take the salt and soda bath, or you can just be in a bath with plain baking soda, by the way. You can do it either way. Especially if you think you're exposed to irradiation or too much cobalt-60 from the foods, that would be helpful. I don't know if it helps with GMOs. I wish Dr. Parcells were alive today and she could tell us what we could bathe away to get rid of those GMOs.
We wish. That would be wonderful.
It would be. Anything else up there? Because you know I can't see.
Let's see. What can I take for chronic fatigue?
So what can you take for chronic fatigue? Number 1, make sure that your pH is balanced. That's where apple cider vinegar and water is going to be very helpful. The 2 teaspoons 3 times a day, because potassium is usually very deficient in people with chronic fatigue. Make sure your sodium is up as well, because we've also found that people with chronic fatigue have very low blood pressure. So we need to make sure that they take sea salt in the morning. We love that pink Himalayan sea salt.
Yes.
The Selena sea salt, which we use in the house, or real salt.
Real salt also.
I love either of those. And something for the adrenals, like the adrenal formula from Unikey that I helped to formulate, would be very helpful. There are a lot of adaptogens. I'm not crazy about a lot of herbs in this day and age because they're often contaminated with heavy metals, like some of your bone broth powders that are out there, folks. So whatever you do, make sure you know the source of your materials.
Yes, absolutely. And do you know what I love, Anne Louise, about this too? A lot of the things you're sharing with us are things we all already have in our kitchens.
So it makes it so nice.
It does. It makes it so nice.
This is really kitchen health, kitchen chemistry.
It is.
Can I share one more thing?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, You know, last night we had a wonderful meal, and instead of using tamari in the marinade, Teresa made something with Coconut Secret coconut aminos. This is a soy-free seasoning sauce, less sodium than soy sauce, totally delicious for marinades. So I want to share this with you now. Now I think Bragg's also puts out a coconut aminos. Have you seen it?
I think they do now. I have just seen it recently.
I think so. That Patricia Bragg, she gets on all the good things. So this is Coconut Secret or Bragg's coconut aminos I'm loving. For those of you that like a little bit of chocolate to brighten your day, we have Lily's 70% dark chocolate. It's probably the most conscious chocolate out there because the ingredients are just unsweetened chocolate, erythritol, inulin, cocoa butter, sea salt, stevia, soy lecithin, which is organic, and vanilla.
Yes, and it's so delicious too.
It's very satisfying.
It
If you
is
just
very
take one little
satisfying.
piece, you know, every hour.
It's
very
so,
satisfying.
you know.
So
A
what
little
else?
chocolate a day.
What else do you have?
Well, when you were talking about this, just reminded me of a fun little thing. I have a tiny little grater.
Cute.
It actually came in a nutmeg grating kit, which was one of my tips. If you use a tiny little grater like this and whole nutmegs, just to grate over a little dessert or over a soup. Last night we had a cream of mushroom soup. Organic. We used organic mushrooms, and I just grated some fresh nutmeg over the top, and it was a really nice touch.
Very nice.
But you can also use a little grater, or even just your regular kitchen home box grater. You can grate a little bit of this chocolate on top of, say, a chia pudding. You don't need much to make it satisfying and give it a really pretty little touch.
That's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You know, there's something else here that I must share with you because I learned about this in terms of what's helpful in the kitchen from Dr. Parcells. Dr. Parcells was a big believer in fresh herbs and spices, and she believed in a mortar and pestle because if you grind the herbs right before you eat, then the volatile oils are very fresh, they're not rancid. But if you buy them dried, they cannot be quite as fresh. So we're starting to do this from some of the herbs and spices that we grew in the garden this year.
Yes.
So 5 minutes before you need it in a recipe, you can just plop it in, and your whole kitchen will be very aromatic. So this is the mortar and pestle.
Absolutely.
In addition to that, we have something too that really is part of our, I'd say our arsenal of healthy seasonings and condiments, and that is the Sweet Leaf Natural Stevia Sweetener. The other brand I like is New Naturals. This is what we use almost consistently as a sweetener. There's some wonderful other products out there with monk fruit and erythritol, but erythritol is a corn-derived alcohol, and so for some people that have corn allergies, it's not the very best. People don't do typically well with sugar alcohols, and they're finding that they almost promote the same kind of insulin that sugar does. So we're back to stevia from the whole leaf.
Yes, absolutely.
Not the chemical extracts that Pepsi and Coca-Cola are making.
No.
Whoa, no.
And just so you know, this sweet leaf stevia actually works very well in baking. Shall I share that recipe that we talked about earlier?
If you
Or
want
I
to.
could post it afterwards.
You know what we'd like you to do? Here's what we'd like you to do. We're going to have you go to the Fat Flush Nation. If you're not a member, then please join. We'd love to have you there because I answer questions much more individually on that Fat Flush Nation on Facebook. And Teresa is going to post a recipe for these wonderful chocolate/carob cookies that you made last night. Because you just made them with stevia, cacao powder, a little bit of
Carob powder.
You did carob powder. You did some walnuts in there, and it was absolutely delicious and very low calorie and very good for this time of year and very satisfying. I personally crave carob powder, not cacao.
Right, and I'm a chocolate person.
I mean,
so we
go figure.
melded them.
We melded them together. Is there another question? I see some questions. Of course, I can't read. But
Well, Debbie is telling us that yes, Bragg's does have coconut aminos. So yay! We're so glad
you
know that.
Patricia Bragg is a very good friend of mine.
I know that.
And I have to call her and congratulate her on yet another wonderful product.
Yes, I love her products. Let's see. Well, while I'm waiting for another question, what I might tell you, we were talking about paleo hacks, and I just wanted to let you know that oftentimes you can find a paleo recipe that will work for fat flush, but not always. For instance, the cookie recipe, I was looking for different ideas, and one of the problems with some of the paleo recipes is that they use sweeteners that we don't use on fat flesh.
Yes.
Such as a recipe that called for a cup of coconut sugar.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
And instead I was able to
Not
use
coconut sugar. It's too high in fructose.
Yes, exactly. But 2 teaspoons of this sweet leaf stevia made it just right for all of us, and you could add a little more or less depending on your taste. So
Very
that's
good.
something to know.
Excellent, excellent. One of the other wonderful products that I have here, I actually have 2 more that I want to share with you, which are lifestyle products that I've always wanted to share when it comes to a healthier and happier lifestyle, is the B12 that I really like, because we know a lot of you take genetic tests in this day and age and have the MTHFR genetic defect, which I have at 1298. So this is the complementary prescriptions B12, and it's liquid, goes into the system very quickly. I take my B12 blood test very frequently, and this is the only thing which has kept it raised. So there you go.
I love it that it's a liquid also.
It goes right in. It's like sublingual and just right into the system. It's absorbed.
Perfect.
And there I've got my B12, because a lot of people are iron deficient, but they think they're iron deficient, but it's really B12. So I want to share that. I also want to share my favorite deodorant, because this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, right?
Oh,
Still-
yes,
still
yes,
October.
absolutely.
So you want to make sure that your lymph is flowing freely, so you don't want anything clogging the lymph glands, especially anything with aluminum or mercury, even from your teeth, which can come down into the lymph underneath this area here and clog up this whole
Oh my,
whole
that
area.
connection is important.
It's a major connection. So this is my favorite. It's sage deodorant. Can you smell it? I think you can use it as an air freshener.
That's nice.
Too.
You
It's
probably
real,
can.
It's real sage. It's real
Oh,
sage.
it smells wonderful.
Real sage. I think we overdid it, but it's real.
Really smell really good.
Now we do. Real sage.
We had a question asking if you, if you would please tell again what was the name of the product for the floaters.
Okay, the name of the product for the floaters, I was going to demonstrate it just to show you how wonderful it is, but I'll probably get it all
Probably.
over. I know, it's all what we need. It's Dexterity Health Liquid MSM. Now on this product, it does not say put it in your eyes, but this is what you use for your eyes. I just use a couple of drops, and I do this many times a day. I don't even count sometimes. You should do it 3 or 4 times a day, and it makes a marked difference. The floaters don't always go away, but they're much less apparent, and so I'll settle for that.
Absolutely. It sounds good to me. A little note I was going to tell you. Oh, question first though. What brand is the Sage deodorant, and where can you find it?
Well, I get it in my local health food store. It's Walida Sage deodorant, and you can get this anyhow. It's anywhere. It's a product of Switzerland, and it's totally lovely because sage, has this wonderful kind of legendary quality about it, and sometimes we burn sage to kind of clear the air.
Yes.
If people are not feeling well or there's any kind of negativity and so forth, we'll burn some sage. And I think maybe this has the same effect. I don't know. It's almost like this magical uplifting effect in terms of uplifting the environment. So this is what I use, sage deodorant.
I love it because it reminds me of when we used to live in Arizona, and the sage would grow. It would be beautiful, and it would smell so wonderful when you're walking through it.
It's magical. We lived in Santa Fe,
Oh, that's
so
right.
then I'll smell pinyon and sage, and I make believe that's what's happening when I use this.
I love it.
I love it too. Other questions?
Do we have another question right now? Are chemtrails real?
Oy, oy, oy. This is the place we're going to talk about that, huh?
Okay.
Well, all I can say is that when you look into the sky and you see a plane that's making circles in the sky and they're leaving these striated clouds, I can tell you as a little girl many years ago, there were never clouds like that when I was growing up. So I would say that there's something going on up there, and that's a whole different discussion for another time.
I agree, and it's a very interesting discussion.
Well,
though.
it's because a lot of people get sick from whatever is coming down in the environment. That's where the nano aluminum is coming from. That's why we're seeing kind of an uptick of issues with the brain. The nano aluminum, which you can't even measure because it's in the nano form. That's why we're seeing if people have parasites, they kind of they eat the nano-aluminum to kind of help you keep yourself free of disease and so forth, and meanwhile they get stronger. So there's a real issue going on, which of course, again,
really
is a
is.
topic for another day and another time.
Gotcha. Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, I was going to just put in a little tip. When Anne Louise was talking about the wonderful mortar and pestle, I just want to throw this out there, that one of the things we love to do with it is use fresh rosemary in the mortar and pestle.
It's my
which is
favorite herb.
another wonderful air clearing aroma also is rosemary.
It is, and I'll tell you what we do with rosemary. You know, and when you're grilling on the grill, and which we do frequently in the summer, we
Yes.
do it kind of all year round sometimes. It is the only herb which has the highest antioxidant that can really neutralize some of the charred pieces that get on the food and so forth. So
yes.
it's a lifesaver. And there's also, you know, I was in Texas for 6 months last year. And what they do in Texas, because they do everything bigger and better in Texas, you know, I'm married to a Texan,
That's
so
right.
I know that. You take a sprig of rosemary, and you can use it as a spear, and you can grill meat on it, little chips of meat.
I love that idea.
And it permeates the whole meat. It's just delightful. So that's something that you can try. So herbs and spices are definitely your best friend. They're healing. They're not just empty flavor enhancers, and they are loaded with antioxidants. The highest herbs and spices with antioxidants, believe it or not, number one I think is cloves. We've got cloves,
Interesting.
oregano, rosemary. What are the other ones? Probably garlic is there, and there's one more that was rather surprising that I just read about. I think it's tarragon marjoram. Really high in antioxidant. And
wonderful.
cumin,
Yes.
which is an anti-cancer, anti-parasitic, anti-everything remedy.
Yes.
And it's delightful.
We love cumin.
I put cumin in just about everything.
We do. It's wonderful in soups and
Stews.
marinades. That marinade we just posted.
And the
is
other
great in
tip
there.
for you to know this time of the year, and this is kind of a stream of consciousness right now. Okay, I can't see your questions, so Teresa's going to be my eyes. I have no contact lenses in this moment. But where was I going with that?
I'm not sure.
I got up at 3 this morning to do some edits on a manuscript, so you have to excuse me.
Yes.
It'll come back to me. I'm sure if it's that important, it will definitely come back to me.
Yeah,
This
we've
time
got
of
a
the year,
couple-
it just came back to me.
Okay.
Hold your questions. This time of the year. This is the time of the year you want warming foods, soups and stews and braised foods, nothing really cold. Why is that? Because you want to heal and you want to soften, you want to calm your elimination system.
Yes.
And it's much better for your digestion. And very soon we're going to have a guest that will talk about Chinese face medicine
Oh, I
and
can't
face
wait.
readings. And she
Fascinating.
and this gal, Rebecca Wood, she's an award-winning author. She's an old dear friend of mine. And she is very, very specifically melding Ayurvedic, Chinese, and macrobiotic systems together into Western kind of modalities, and is a big believer that you need cooked foods right this moment.
Yes, and they're very comforting too this time of year.
Yum.
We do have a couple of more questions.
Okay.
There's a little question at the top there. Was trying to see about favorite flowers. What are your favorite paleo flowers besides coconut?
Paleo. I was thinking flowers. And I
Oh,
was thinking,
flowers.
there's such a thing as paleo. Because we have flowers in the house all the time.
We do.
So favorite paleo flowers. All right, so here's what I will tell you. Loving coconut. I also like an organic almond. You probably should get the best
Yes.
almond, probably overseas, because they gas all almonds, whether they're organic or not, or overly heat them. So there's an issue with almonds. I'm personally not crazy about cassava. Now that may work for many of you. I'm not as crazy about it for people that are fighting fungus and mold and lime, and mold and lime sometimes go hand in hand, or parasites. It's a high source of carbohydrates.
Yes.
And, you know, cassava is very similar to the yucca plant. Sometimes it is the same as the yucca plant. There's also chickpea flour, which is good, kind of high in lectins. And I would say those are the big two, besides tiger nut flour would probably be my go-to, because I think that's a prebiotic.
Yes.
It's a legume. I think it's very low in lectin, so we're crazy about tiger nut flour. So put that in your cake and eat it, I guess.
Right. We do love all of those flours, and I think we are experimenting still with several new ones. The tiger nut flour makes a wonderful cookie, and it's also a good thickener. It's hard to find a good thickener that is healthy and easy to use.
Definitely.
And that's one of them. So let's see. Tell us about pine oil, please.
I wish we had some here. So the pine nut oil, you know, a lot of people have GERD. They have esophageal problems. They have irritation as you get older. Some things start happening to your digestion. If you have a hiatal hernia, then you get an acid splash back into the esophagus. So pine nut oil is an oil that's high in omega-6 because we need good omega-6s, okay? That's number one. The pine nut oil has an omega-6 fatty acid called pinoleic. It's something like pinoleic acid. And it's similar to gamma-linolenic acid, and it's healing for the membranes. So if you take a teaspoon of this 3 times a day, maybe 10 days before meals, 3 times a day for 10 days, you will heal ulcers, the thinning stomach lining, and anything else from the ear on down. It heals everything from your mouth to the other end.
Well, I didn't realize that. That is
and it works better than, people talk about DGL.
Yes.
And I know I wrote about it. It's very hard to find it without fructose these days, or all the xylitols and the maltitols that are sweeteners. But this pine nut oil, it is a must. It's not terribly expensive. You have to get it, of course, online. I don't see it in all the health food stores, but it is delicious. We're also trying an algae oil, so we're going to tell you how that goes.
Yes, we just got it recently. I can't wait to experiment
with it. But I'm loving pine nut oil.
Yes, and pine nut oil also from a culinary viewpoint, is really delicious, just drizzled. Even drizzled on a piece of grilled salmon, or
it lends a wonderful. You can't cook, but you can't cook with it. You have to drizzle it or use it as a salad.
Exactly.
So that's the key.
Yeah.
I wish I could see these questions.
What is the brand of B12 you mentioned?
So the B12 is complementary prescriptions. It's the one that I like the best. Purified water, a little glycerin, which will get into your system, cranberry and cinnamon.
Nice. Also,
really good for
you kind of alluded to this already, Louise, but there was a question about, can you take this oil for stomach ulcers? Would pine nut oil help with stomach ulcers?
If you look up pine nut oil, and the company that I'm very fond of is Siberian Tiger, I think it's called.
Yes, that's the one I use.
It's the one at the house. So Siberian Tiger, and you will see a whole dossier with journal citations about pine nut oil and the fact that it helps ulcers. So you don't need any of these medications. I personally don't do well with aloe, and I've always had a sensitive digestion. Aloe I don't do well with, and then people sometimes use. There's an old-fashioned one that they use, and I'll think of it. It's very mucilaginous. Dr. Parcells used to talk about it. Don't do well with that one either. Or marshmallow. Not crazy about that. But this one goes right in there because people are so deficient in the good omega-6s, which is so good for the skin.
Yes, I'm so excited to be learning about that because we've heard about the omega-3s for so long now. And
I know, we've been sold a bill of goods about that, but that comes out in the next book. We can't talk about that yet.
Okay, then.
Soon enough.
There was a question about what do we do to detox from chemtrails, and I think, Anne-Louise, you had some good tips about the bath.
Well, that's a toughie. So what I do to detoxify against any kind of air pollutant, that's a better way of handling this on Facebook. I have 2 air filtration systems in my office, which were designed to get rid of the little particulates and mold. So they're 2 different ones. Healthways is one of them, and I think the other one is an Austin air filter. I get them from CWR. CWR, or you can call Unikey and we can help you with that kind of a thing. 1-800-888-4353. Very outstanding air filtration. So I protect myself by making my home a fortress.
Yes.
You should see all the EMF protective devices we have there too. So we kind of try to walk the walk as much as we can. We live in an environment that increasingly presents us with challenges. This is not your grandmother's world anymore, folks. Not even your mother's world.
It's really true. Let's see. Complementary prescriptions B12. Was that the name of your?
Yes.
Okay, we got that covered. Any more questions for us right now? Then I wanted to talk to you a little bit about garlic.
Garlic. Well, what can you tell me about garlic?
One of my favorite ways to keep garlic, you probably have seen these, they've been around forever and ever, but I love to keep garlic in a little clay pot with little vents in it. It keeps it cool, keeps it fresh longer. And I wanted to show you the nifty little garlic press that we have.
I love that garlic press.
Yes, it works so great. So if you've never used a garlic press, it's just a really nifty little gadget.
For
easy
garlic
to use.
juice.
Yes, for garlic juice.
And every home should have one.
Absolutely. So you just put your little clove of garlic in here and squeeze away, and you've got your nice little garlic juice.
What else do you have over there?
Let's see, some fun things. Since we had a question earlier about gadgets, so I wanted to show you some of. Well, actually, we don't use a lot of gadgets.
We really don't.
We're kind of purists in a way. We just use a nice sharp knife, good blender, and that kind of thing. But sometimes you want to save time. This is just an boiled egg slicer. So you just set your boiled egg right here, pull the top down, and you have perfectly even, neat little egg slices to put across a salad or somewhere like that. Something, I don't know if you guys can see that over here.
Well, here, we'll give it to me and I'll show it.
I have to unplug it. I just wanted to say we use a lot of lemon and lemon juice and different things.
Oh,
and
wow.
most of the time,
I didn't even know we had that.
That's because it came from my house.
Oh, we've got this wonderful
I'm sharing.
thing. No, I love that.
I know, we should get one for your house too,
Thank
actually.
you. Thank you. I want one.
We just use a regular nice little stainless steel if you just have one lemon.
And it should be stainless, not aluminum.
Exactly.
And how do you know the difference? Because a magnet will
Magnet.
not, right, the magnet does not stick to aluminum because aluminum is non-magnetic.
That's right. But this one is electric, obviously. You plug it in. This will save you so much time if you have, if you wanted to make some homemade lemonade or you needed lemon juice for a recipe. It's great. You just press your half of your citrus down on the top and it fills this up here and you can pour it out. So
that is
love it.
Lovely and totally cool.
This is a brawn, but other companies make it as well.
They make really good So I think we're going to leave you with this. If there are more questions, we're happy to entertain them. But I am completing a book which will be out next year. And the reason that we're calling this show now, which is going to be a show,
yes,
in case you didn't know, it's going to be a show. It's called Radical Health because there'll be a book that is a radical book that's coming out next year. And one of the things that I've discovered is that if you're going to be healthy, you have to have the right cooking utensils in the kitchen.
yes.
So you have to really purge your kitchen. And the very best cooking utensils are one that I completely forgot about until the other day. It's not stainless steel anymore. It's not glass. And it's not La Creuset. It's not enamel-covered iron. It's clay, the old-fashioned clay,
Yes.
earthenware pots and pans, because when you use clay that is inert, it will cook the food through infrared heating, which will bring out and meld all the subtle flavors. So that is what they're now using, clay. So we've got to bring back the clay.
Absolutely. I have a couple of clay pans, not many yet, but I'm waiting to add to my collection. I have a clay bread maker that I also use for meatloafs, and I have a clay pie pan, and nothing makes such a wonderful brown crispy crust as cooking in clay.
It's so outstanding. Well, I want to get a clay pot and put everything now in clay. Now, there's certain name brands that are out there. One of them that I just read about was called Extrema with an X. Extrema. I think it's called with an X. I read about this at 3 this morning, so you'll have to excuse me, or you have to wait for the book when it comes out. But clay is the way. Some of you ask about Instant Pots, and some of you get upset when I tell you that it's not the best way to cook. Well, if you're going to cook occasional rice or something where you need something quick, then you use something like that. But it's not the best way to preserve nutrients. It's high heat under pressure.
Right.
So you use a clay pot, low and
Yes.
slow with infrared, and in air, so it doesn't pick up anything from the metal that you're cooking in.
Exactly.
And of course, if you have aluminum pie plates or anything that's aluminum that you're cooking in, like a muffin tin, well, you can negate that and neutralize that if you put unbleached paper, little muffin cups, you know,
Yes.
in there, or parchment.
Or parchment.
So we
use
love
unbleached
parchment.
paper.
We love unbleached paper.
Yes.
So if there are no more questions, and Teresa, you'll have to do a little bit of reading from
Okay, I have
that.
a little quick one.
A quickie.
What about possible lead contamination in clay?
You have to make sure that there's no lead in clay. Yeah, that's very vital. I'm going to get you the best brands. I just stumbled upon this, and of course that's very true. We've got to get the ones that do not have any lead.
And this question isn't clay just for baking. Actually, I've been doing some reading about clay bakeware also, or clay pots and pans, and there are other options out there. Stovetop options for doing a stew.
With clay, like earthenware pots
Yes,
and pans?
yes.
We have to get the brand names for you and check
We'll
all
find
this
out.
out. We have to find out.
Val. Hi, Val.
Oh, it's Val. Hi, Val.
What is the best way to clean those clay pots?
Oh, Val, we haven't gotten that far yet.
I've read a little bit about it.
Okay.
We're going to get back to
Here
you,
she goes. Go ahead.
Well, I'm a big manual reader. Read the information that comes with it, because there are some variations.
So that one of us reads. Okay, go ahead.
So, but what I have read and what I have done at home with the 2 clay pots I do have, hot soapy water, but I'm careful too with the soap I use, and so is Anne Louise. We make sure that it's
Well, it's non-phosphorus, it's
Yes,
biodegradable,
exactly.
and there's a lot of good stuff there on the market. I'm really starting to like the Mrs. Myers brands for some reason.
they smell
I met
so clean
Mrs.
and
Myers
nice.
years
You
ago.
did?
We had a book signing, and so I
Oh my
have
gosh.
I have this loyalty to the brand.
Something new. I did not know that. How fun.
Oh, now you know.
I know. You can also soak in vinegar and hot water. Clay pots and pans are actually surprisingly easy to clean, though. Things don't generally
You know, we
stick.
used clay back in the 70s. Do you remember that?
I do, actually. Why did we forget about it?
I don't know. We're going back to a lot of those old-fashioned things from our younger days.
We are. Okay, here's a new subject. What causes thinning skin and bruising, and what can I take?
Sometimes, take a TMA #1 so we know what's going on, because a lot of it has to do with copper. Copper, is a double-edged sword. So not enough copper affects skin texture and skin thickness. And if it isn't, and we'll know from the hair if you've got hidden copper, if you've got excess copper, if it's not biologically, or it's not bioavailable is the word I want to use. Excuse me, it's still up at 3. So that's #1. #2, what makes skin thick? I'm not such a big believer in all this collagen stuff that's out there. I hate to say it, but I just haven't seen a lot of good research. Make your own bone broth. I like that, or I like the Kettle and Fire, because I know that they're good companies, because we've actually tested the brand.
Yes.
However, when it comes to getting your skin thicker, look for lysine, which is a component of collagen. Now, nobody tells you that.
No, I didn't
Lysine,
even
maybe
know that.
1 to 2 grams a day, and proline, which is another very important amino acid, important for collagen. I personally take a ton of vitamin C, 5 to 7 grams a day. I'd go back to what we know is tried and true. Collagen-producing vitamin C, lysine, and proline. I love that. Maybe some silicone thrown in there.
That sounds excellent to me. Let's see. Can you please tell us more? I can't read the last one there, Matt.
Matt,
At the
help.
bottom.
We have our IT specialist with us.
Can you please
In
tell
the
us more
background.
on home EMF support?
So if you come to my house, and we're going to do a video in the house, and you're going to see what we do. #1, nothing is, our house is not Wi-Fi'd. So we have disabled the router, and it does not pick up any Wi-Fi signals, because I live with a ton of cell phone towers, and you can Google that with celltowers.org, I think.
That sounds right.
Celltowers.org. or antennas.org. I think it's antennas.org. So there's nothing that's Wi-Fi. We're plugged in. I don't like anybody using their cell phones in my house. You know how I get with that.
I do.
And it's getting harder and harder because they sneak them in. But I know I take their shoes off and I take their phones away from when they come into my house.
It's true.
So that's number one. Number two, I only use my cell phone to really check messages these days. And when I don't use it, it's on airplane mode. Your best bet, so it doesn't pick up a signal, is to put it on airplane mode most of the time. Because if not, it is irradiating, and you are being irradiated if you text, if you hold something in your hand, if you put it up to your head. I don't care what anybody says. You'll be thankful you heard this information. Now, where you sleep is important. I had a building biologist come into my home with a very, very sophisticated meter. And there was a cell phone tower that was beaming right, of course, on my side of the bed, which is why I wasn't sleeping. So I got special you made them for me.
I did.
So I got some special material. We made a canopy. That got dusty. So you turned that into curtains. So we now protect the room from the cell phone radiation coming through the windows with this special material that I got at less EMF, and it's a cottony, gauzy material from Canada, and it's got all these silver threads in there. So I do that. I disable everything before I go to bed, and the other thing that I do if I really want to sleep, I shut off the electricity. We have the ability to kind of shut off the breaker to the electricity, and that is like you're sleeping like a baby. And you have to do that because this is an environmental assault that's 24/7. It's not like lead. It's not like asbestos where you can just remove yourself, but the exposure is there 24/7 whether you know it or not.
No, it's true.
So if you are, and I don't want you to feel guilty about this, some people do, but if you have a lot of Wi-Fi in your home, the least you can do at night to save your brain and your cortisol and your stress and your skin, which is cortisol impacted, is to disable the router. Okay. Any other good questions like that?
Let's see. What form of vitamin C do you take?
I take Unique. It has a timed C. The reason I take the timed C is it's timed and it contains some lysine. And then the other brand I take is Dr. Rath, R-A-T-H, Matthias Rath, has a vitamin C that has some lysine and proline in it.
Oh, perfect.
Wow, and he's totally brilliant. I met him years ago.
Oh, interesting.
And I just was so impressed with his knowledge. He worked alongside Linus Pauling.
Oh my.
Who got the Nobel Prize for vitamin C research.
I've heard you speak of him before.
And I want to visit him. He's overseas now.
Do you think hesperidin is really good for combating hot flashes, and how effective?
Hesperidin at about 500 milligrams is effective, and it's in my female formula. And I put it in there because it is very effective. So anything you can do to kind of supplement and, I would say, support the capillaries is very, very important.
Excellent. What do you think of the old granite ware?
It can chip. If it didn't chip, it'd be okay. The problem is when it chips, things get into the food. Bacteria can live in the crevices, so that's the problem. You want something really durable. We're going to get you the brands. This whole clay thing is new to us again. It's not really old, but it's new, and we will get you the best brand names, get you lead-free ceramic ware, and figure out how to clean it. Is there anything else before we say goodbye?
One quick question about a TMA. Could you explain what TMA is?
Tissue mineral analysis, where we take a tablespoon of your hair and we can analyze what's been going on for the past 3 months. And we find wonderful, wonderful little tips to your health. We find your glandular balance, your mineral balance, and whether you are being contaminated by uranium, which we see a ton of around here.
Goodness.
Oh, I know it. It's all
amazing.
there. I know.
Amazing.
We tell you more than we might not even want to know.
How do you feel about cooking with copper pans?
I'm not a big believer in copper pans. Because anything copper can leach into the food, and we do not know if you're actually stockpiling copper, which is connected to estrogen dominance.
Yes. And just a little side thing there. Copper's beautiful. I love it. I love it in the kitchen. I don't like to cook with it either. It's very difficult to clean.
Oh, there you go. There's a good reason in and of itself. Are there any other questions that we're missing?
Let's see.
Is it time to say goodbye? It's time to say goodbye. We're getting the highs on. We have been at this for almost an hour, and you have been a wonderful audience. If there are any other topics that you'd like me to cover in the upcoming weeks, please let me know. But what's on the back burner, so to speak, because we are in the kitchen, will be Rebecca Wood, who'll be doing Chinese face reading, and I'm also going to have a color consultant that we're going to be working with. So I want you to have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a happy rest of October, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Anne Louise.
Thank you. Thank you.